Welcome to the Hardtech Podcast.
And everybody, welcome back to the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre with my usual suspect, Grant Chapman.
How's it going, everybody?
We're currently in season 3 right now of the podcast. If you guys haven't listened to season 2, we did 42 different episodes of founders and product leaders all across the country. But today, I'm super excited to introduce Justin Sirotin. Hopefully I pronounced that right. The founder and CEO of OCTO. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
No, super excited to have you on the show, Justin. Honestly, we ate into a little bit of the podcast time because you and Grant were already going back and forth on what it means to be an agency and a consultancy, and you guys are basically speaking the exact same language. For those who are less familiar with who you are, what you do, would love to get a quick overview of who you are and what OCTO does.
Sure. I run a firm that's a little unusual. We merge together design and engineering, marketing and experience. We kind of blur those lines very intentionally to connect together opportunities for product, opportunities for narrative, and opportunities for customer experience or experiential marketing, however you're sort of putting those buckets together. And we blend those into one company, one firm, which puts us in a little bit of an unusual camp, but one where we've been able to have some pretty good success.
That's awesome. And I understand your background. You originally were in industrial design, right? You did that for quite some time.
I came out of school in industrial design in the 90s, and that industry has gone through a fairly substantial change over the course of 30 years. And actually, I'm in the midst of writing a fairly long-winded piece that no one will ever read about what is design, because I feel like we've kind of lost the thread on what it means to be in design, and design is no longer sort of seen as the frosting on a cake, but instead the functions of the cake itself are all inside of the design field. And whereas when I started, we were sort of later into the process. So I came out of school, took a traditional design degree, ended up running a firm for someone else whom I still stay in contact with. I was the 10th employee, and when I left, it was 125 people in 3 divisions. That firm then divested from all of its consumer branded goods and industrial products. And I had gone off to start a furniture company, which was a disaster. And my furniture company was up and running. I had employees. We had sales. When my old firm divested from those businesses, I got a phone call from one of the former partners saying, "Do you want a referral?" And I said, "I need money. I don't have a way to pay my mortgage." "Yes, please." And this firm was sort of born out of that conversation and that action from my prior firm. It's a testament to maintain relationships when you leave, and they will pay themselves in the future. So I'm still close with both of the former founders. They ended up selling that business twice, private equity once, growth capital the second time. So they got two bites at the apple. And that firm is now, I don't even know, 1,000 people. I think it's the largest med device design, development, and regulatory service provider in the U.S. It's called Verinex.
As in, who is it again?
It's called Verinex.
Verinex, okay.
When I left, it was called Zymedica. Zymedica became Verinex in, I don't know what year, 2019, 20, something like that.
Justin, one of the things I was so excited about when it came to this conversation was just hearing you and Grant get to go back and forth on all things agency. So I'm excited to dive into that. But maybe, Grant, you could share a little bit on your side, that origin story of one project leading to what is the actual
accidental
company. You have a similar story there, ironically enough.
We were in the same boat. So Drew, my co-founder, had dropped out of college to join a grid energy storage company. So think battery packs and power electronics. And, we were children, employees 4, 5, and 6 with our other buddy, Tony. And this was, we were going to change the world. This is before power walls existed and all that stuff. And that founder, promptly ran out of money. So we were kind of sort of back to school, but someone on the internet had reached out, "Hey, we saw that you built these electric go-karts in college for fun. Would you do that for money?" And Drew and I looked at each other like, "Build electric race cars for money? Like, hell yeah, let's do this." The only wrinkle in that was we were young and dumb, and we didn't know what venture capital was. So we didn't know how to start a company. So we're like, well, we'll start selling our souls to anyone willing to pay us money for engineering and pour that money back in to start this go-kart company. And it worked.
Yeah.
We ended up consulting enough to build the prototypes and get going. And 3 or 4 years later, we were selling and building go-karts, but we are making more money consulting every year in the P&L. I'm like, you know what? Maybe go-karts are too early. We can just go do product development full-time, and we became Glassboard in 2015. So total accident. Go-kart company started out of my mom's basement, and fast forward, now we got a building full of really smart people, and they don't let me design anything anymore. So it's wild how you accidentally trip into these fun experiences running a consultancy or product development firm or agency.
Yeah, and I think that the lesson there is being open to looking at where things are coming in from and not being so set in on, like, I kept my first entrepreneurial effort. I raised $50,000 in friends and family money. Actually, I shouldn't even say it that way. I raised $50,000 from a friend, one person. He wrote me a note. I still have it. It says, "This better be worth $500,000 in 10 years. Don't fuck it up."
I love that.
And he's a friend of mine from middle school. Like we've known each other since middle school. He's built and sold a couple companies. He's done very well for himself. And I held that business way too long. Like I should have left that at the side of the road 3 years in, because this business was running already.
Right.
But instead, I just kept like, oh, the next sale, the next sale, the next up.
We'll figure it out. We're one step away from unlocking the up into the right curve.
Yeah, and thankfully it didn't cause me to go bankrupt.
Well, and what's interesting is your consultancy kept you from going bankrupt.
That's right.
Right. It's this what everyone in entrepreneurship doesn't understand is there are two kinds of entrepreneurship. There is, crazy high-risk startup, venture-backed, must scale 10x every year forever as a product company or software company or crazy new idea. And then there's like running a profitable, bootstrappable company that just turns over money and grows organically and has no one in it but you, right, from an investor or capital standpoint. Like, sell what you're good at, compound that, find other people that are really good at that and pay them a salary and day trade their labor, right? That's what we always joke. I buy people annually and I day trade them monthly. Like, this is what a consultancy actually is. And the real talent isn't actually what you, Justin, and I do in design or in engineering or in product. Our real talent and the real value of an agency is how do you recruit the right team and give them the right structure and environment and motivation. Because that's, I think, how you make a good agency.
I totally agree. In the environment, you've now been through the same chaotic environment that I went through. And I look back at like the early days of my career, the only equivalent we had was 9/11.
Yep.
Caused a similar, but much, much shorter disruption in the way that the business was operating when I was an employee. So I felt like I had that a little bit in my rearview mirror. I missed 2008 entirely. Like 2008 didn't happen to me because I quit my job in December 2007. So my expectations for salary and
were already low.
Were already zero. Like I knew I wasn't going to make any money. I'd put money away. I was prepared for that. So by the time I was trying to build this firm, it was already like, I don't even really know actually, 09-ish.
But it was recovery time. You were already at the floor and things were going up and to the right.
It was going in the right direction. So when COVID came through, like that's where we all got super tested, and that, the ability to have I did something that I don't regret that my banker would disagree with, which is I didn't lay anybody off.
We didn't either.
And I just suffered through it and used PPP money to start another company.
And we used PPP to keep everyone employed. Now, my question is, what did your 21 look like? Because our 20 was a little rocky, and then 21 was rocket ship.
21 for us was really good. 22 was a disaster.
Interesting.
Like we went like this.
Oh, did the excitement get too much and get over the skis?
No, I think what happened was, okay, if I'm honest with myself, what happened was I'd started another company. And I was spending time split between the two.
That's tough.
And I think I hurt this business in 22 as a result.
Justin and Grant, unfortunately, I'm not going to allow you guys to glaze over 2020 and those war stories. Sorry, we're going back to it. Because I'm sure it's a lot of pain, and so we don't want to talk about it. We will here. One of the questions I have is, Grant mentioned it a second ago, but especially in a bootstrap business like an agency, right, where it needs to be profitable. That's
cash flow.
That cash flow, that's how it exists. Going into 2020, the folks that made it out the other side are true. What I like to always kind of coin the term of like warriors, people who really made it through some difficult times. Just either Grant or Justin or both would love to kind of understand, how did you emotionally make it through that experience? Because I think that's one of the things that could be good for someone listening who's also in the space of, when things are up, okay, great, we all feel the endorphins and it's fantastic, but how do you truly navigate when things are in a lull? And this is a case where it wasn't necessarily on the onus of you guys, it was just the outcome of what was happening in the world at the time.
Oh man, I remember the abject panic. So I had gotten really sick, which we still don't know what it was, but I think it was COVID in March of 20. I'd been traveling internationally and got home and was out, like basically unconscious in a bed for 2.5 or 3 weeks. And I woke up to COVID having happened. Like, hadn't been in the office, had no idea what was going on. Like, woke up and got like myself put back together and like called my partners like, hey guys, I'm finally like not having a fever over 103. What are we doing? And like, oh, everyone's worked from home. There's a global pandemic. Like, we thought you died, like all this crazy stuff. And I was like, oh no, I'm alive. I just feel like death. But wait, everyone's worked from home. What is going on?
Yeah.
And so I jumped back into my business after the transition had happened very rapidly. And my next week was meeting with every single one of my clients, canceling every single one of the contracts that we had, back to back to back to back, just cancel. And it was, luckily my dad's an attorney, so I was raised that, contracts are contracts and let's go fight them. And I don't have legal fees because I'll defend myself and figure this out. So I'm willing to go fight this. So I just bullied up to all of our clients. Like, no, we're going to continue. We're going to provide value. You're going to need this, I promise. And if they couldn't cancel, I didn't let them. And they fought me for it for about, a couple of weeks in a row. PPP came out. I think we're the very first company to file in our bank that like allowed us to go do it. Like, first people in line, how the doc's done. Like, I had my ducks in a row, trained all of my startup clients how to file for PPP because they didn't have any help. So I'm up late at night on Zooms training people how to fill out this paperwork. And about a month later, it was still kind of rocky. And we're like, all right, what we're going to do is all the leadership is going to go from full salary to zero salary. And everyone on the team is going to take a pay cut by half. Because if we did this, I didn't have to fire anybody and I could keep everyone's benefits running. We did the math. It was like 6 or 9 months. We had enough cash in the bank at half pay rate that we were going to keep benefits alive for everyone for 6 or 9 months. And this is a pandemic. Getting sick is the thing we all worried about. And we're like, let's keep healthcare running. And we had a virtual town hall with the team like, hey, this is what we're doing. If none of you can afford to live this way, like you're going to miss a mortgage payment, call me. Let me know. We'll figure something out. And we had to have one pay period that was at half pay. By the time the next pay period rolled around, we were back to standard pay. And by the third pay period in a row, we'd bonus everyone back for that half a paycheck we borrowed.
That's
and
great.
like, no, we're back on the rails. Let's go do this thing.
Yeah.
And what that allowed us to do was 3 major topics for us. We had built this infinite trust and confidence within our team that like the world may be falling down around us, but this is the safe place. That allowed our team to exude that over Zoom calls to all of our clients, whether they're enterprise or startups, that, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to get your stuff done while we're figuring out the world. We can still be engineering. The stuff you were counting on us for doesn't ship tomorrow. It ships in 6 or 12 months. Well, it'll all be figured out by then. Don't worry about it. Little did we know it was not yet going to be fully figured out. But we were able to exude this confidence. And what the third tier that happened is all of our enterprise clients who couldn't transition to work from home effectively or be effective, all of a sudden needed help.
Yeah.
And that's what caused 21 to be an absolute rocket ship for us, is as they're all trying to navigate work from home. We were, fully prepped for it because we're just a tech company and have laptops and like VPN worked.
Right.
So we took this cratering, bad idea or bad thing that happened to us, used it to build rapport and trust, and then just ran with it.
Our experience was similar in some ways, different in others. We had the same client cutback.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like what I did was I had a good bank. I'll just say that. Like the bank was very supportive. So PPP loans were super helpful. The bank was very supportive. We didn't have a ton of debt, and I was able to restructure what we did have, basically open up a line.
Big old line, yep.
Let me sort of weather. I'm thinking back, it was probably like 6 months, if memory serves. but our client work kind of did a little bit of a dip, and then it generally came back within 3 or 4 months. It didn't stay down for too long. We discounted fees to a couple of our big customers, which I am going to argue preserved those relationships. Like that meant like we still have those customers today. So
Right.
those relationships that we preserved in 20, we kept them. We've kept them, 6
That
years
compound
on.
interest is a hell of a drug. I think that was worth the discount.
Yeah. So we offered up some discounts. A bunch of our customers they did a lot of furloughing on some of our enterprise clients.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we weren't working with a lot of startups. Those that we were working with, they didn't really feel it because they were funded separately.
They had cash, so there was no
If
revenue
you were raising
problem.
money at that time, you actually were in a great spot.
You're in a
'Cause
great
now you can
spot.
like pitch from Zoom.
Yeah. So for us, we didn't let anybody go. We kept everybody on. We reluctantly transitioned to remote work, which, like you said, like pick your laptop up and go home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were in the midst of a really big project for Cartier, which was a total pain in the ass because it required Cartier, being the brand that they are, has sort of standards. It's a physical object that we were making, which had a digital experience living inside. And getting that through that, like we needed suppliers to make parts. We needed components to be validated through Cartier corporate.
That was all remote.
That was super hard. Super hard. So our business, as it started to rebound, it didn't rebound fast enough for me to then not have some capacity. We'd been kicking around this idea of starting another company at the end of 2019. I just took PPP money and I just set up a team, and we actually launched a company called Rootworks in September 2020 on Kickstarter. So we built a cycling bag that goes on the front of your bike. That then we launched on Kickstarter. We ended up doing like 320.
What a good year to launch a cycling product.
It was the ideal time to launch a cycling product, and then 21 was a less than ideal time to be trying to buy product from made in China.
Impossible time to buy cycling product made in China. Even harder.
So we actually did, I think we did $1 million in revenue in 21. Between January, well, actually, inventory would have landed in March, between March and like July.
Yeah.
And then we did like nothing for the
Because you have
back
no
end.
inventory.
We didn't have any inventory. So we did this like crazy. We did $87,000 in the first day that we came into stock.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
The world had totally lost their minds. It's like $87,000, just like just sales like through that. We're just like, okay, this is, what do we do? Like we're going to run out of, we did end up running out. We had some supply chain problems that caused us to run out faster than we wanted to. And like trying to deal with, I've been making stuff in China for 25 years, trying to do that with them remote, us unable to travel.
No boats available like in the ocean. Like all the containers were booked.
Yeah, try debugging a tool.
Oh, I bet
Where
that's
you're
funny.
just like, okay, I know you have a cooling problem. I know it, but I can't see the tool. I can't see how they're running it. I can't, like, not just my team, like the people who we would normally just put someone on a plane and have them sit in front of that mold. Couldn't go. So
Yeah.
you're like talking through a salesperson who's, it was.
Who's zoomed to the manufacturing engineer, who is zoomed to the technician who's actually in front of the tool, and he's the only guy allowed in front of that tool.
Crazy. Our supplier at the time ended up so in China they put up big orange barriers trying to contain neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And the person who we were working with, she would go out at night, sneak through the barriers, go to the plant, grab samples, sneak back through the barriers, come back to her house so that she could show us things from the factory because she was not allowed to go.
That's
From her
crazy.
apartment because she was just on the other side of the barrier wall
Wow.
in Shenzhen. She couldn't go. So, yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. You have a similar experience that I had, which is I think it's crazy, like actually crazy, how many companies hire agencies like mine who have never built their own thing, that all they've done is consult. And I feel like the experience of building my first company that didn't work, building my second company that we still have, building my third company that is now a product business that basically runs independently. But this idea that you're going to hire somebody to do R&D product work from a team or from founders who've never been through that process themselves
Right.
blows my mind. I'm like,
Well, it's crazy how we got started. I have no idea how Drew and I got clients when we started because we were children.
yeah,
Like legitimately not graduated from college yet, children, and people hired us to help them develop their products. And like, thank you for everyone that did. Condolences for those of you that trusted us when we were children. But we got lucky early on and had some really cool successes. And that springboarded us into being able to be trusted because we had shipped product for client. And again, we shipped go-karts ourselves. We shipped a product. It just was one, quantity one of one.
But you had to know how to do that, right? You had to know how to build a supply chain. You know how to treat customers. You had to know how to deliver something of quality. You had to know how to do all of the underlying components of the business that allowed it to exist at all. And I think about how many consulting firms like mine exist, and the people in charge have never been through that process, and they're giving advice to companies about how to do it. And I'm like, this is actual madness.
Well, and the fun part is, as a consultant or an agency, Justin, let's see if you get this. We always get asked one more thing. The Apple famous one more thing. And every early client call, it's like, hey, can you guys do insert one more thing here? For us, it's like, can you build our pitch deck? Can you do branding for us? Like, we're not a branding firm, but we have industrial designers and they're creative and we'll bang it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic that makes agencies really good.
Yeah.
Anything past 4 or 5 years in.
I agree.
Once you make it past that 5 year and you've launched a couple of products for clients and you've been through the ringer and had a couple of projects die in a fire, right? I think that's the other half of the learning, Justin. Like you and I were like, oh, you have to have shipped it and have to have done it. You also have to have ridden something all the way to the ground because those bruises are the ones that make you not make the mistake again.
Yeah, for sure. I actually just wrote a piece for LinkedIn about this culture of experimentation and the idea that if you don't have a culture of experimentation and a process to enable experimentation, the learnings are really slow. And a lot of, especially larger the company, the more likely this is to be true. This unwillingness to spend on failure
or put yourself out there. I think that's the right way to put it.
Yeah, causes teams to not learn how to then succeed over time. And as a result, you end up basically just like haircutting, shortcutting everything that you build to the lowest risk option.
And I'd say like a graph that is going down and to the right just slightly is better than the risk of a graph going down and the right rapidly.
Yeah.
Right? Like you'll have a team that is slowly burning through all of their capital and making very little progress and like just boiling the frog in the bad way.
Right.
And they will do that 9 times out of 10 in corporate rather than get the dice, go to Vegas and roll them and say, let's see if we can make something really magic here and make it wonderful. That's why you get all this mediocrity coming out of the large organizations. And just I think that's why they hire people like you and I.
I think so too. And the irony of it is the groups that are better suited to survive bigger risk are the larger ones. The ones who are actually going to die if they do it wrong are the small ones, and they're the ones taking the big risk. So like there's this funny shift that happens when you're trying to protect the fortress versus a new fortress to build. And those larger organizations certainly are more interested in protecting that fortress.
Sure. No, I would really agree. I think that one of the gentlemen I love to listen to is Roy Sutherland. And he speaks very directly to this exact point, which he always references the bees and the waggle dance.
Yeah.
Which is, bees will go out and they'll go to the crop of flowers that always is bearing the pollen. But every once in a while, there's one bee or a group of bees that just go completely astray. And they run the risk of maybe like not finding any pollen or dying because they, went to the wrong direction. But once they found the new bed of pollen, then they come back and they do a little waggle dance. And then all the other bees understand, hey, this is the new source of pollen. Right. And that same sort of concept where as the larger the organization gets, the more they're more adverse to risk. Less because they have the actual ability to fail, but I think that the people in the roles, I think naturally kind of err on the side of security, right? You're going to get fired much quicker if you make a decision that logically made sense and it didn't work,
Yeah.
versus a completely left field decision that if it works out, great, you're a superstar, but if it fails, you're going to get fired.
Right.
And so that's kind of the I feel like where a firm like Glassboard or OCTO comes in play is where we actually get to outsource this. So if they fail, great. But I think regardless, that is actually the beauty of what I feel like agencies like both of what we have at Glassboard and OCTO are, is that you need that beak to go out and then come back and find the waggle dance, right?
Yeah, the way that we put it to especially large organizations is our role is to find the adjacencies, explore them without breaking the existing core business model.
Mm-hmm.
And then if our exploration proves fruitful, then our next role is set it up so that you don't need us anymore. Fold it back into the core, let it grow as a part of the core business, and then we'll go find the next thing.
I think this is so important to talk about. I know this wasn't on our list, but I think this topic is so important. So many early clients I meet, both startups and enterprise clients, are like, well, I'm so afraid that I'm going to be addicted to you and have to use you forever. Like, why would I ever use a consultancy? I've never have before. Right? This is insert this product manager's first time going out and getting outside help. And I was like, yes, there's the consultant's adage. If there's not money to be made in solving this problem, there is absolutely money to be made in prolonging the solution.
Of course.
But that actually isn't good for people like us. Everyone thinks that consultants are just here to bleed money in the moment. I'm like, no. I want you to go to market with whatever we're working on right now as fast and as cheap as humanly possible, because I have way more area under the curve ability to make money off of you. If you love what we did so much that you can afford to launch V2, V3, V5 years later. Justin, as you said earlier in the episode, you have clients you did favors for in 2020 that are paying dividends in 2026.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what's important, because in our work as agencies, I would love to get your opinion on this. My hardest job is sales.
Yeah.
Finding good talent, doing good engineering for our clients, like actually doing what we do as a company is fun and easy and unlimited supply.
I
The
agree.
most expensive thing for me is to get a great new client, to spend enough time, effort, energy building a relationship to build a new thing. I won't jeopardize that for almost anything. Justin, you echo that?
I agree 100%. I mean, finding new high quality opportunities is the hardest part of this. Delivering once the opportunity is in the door is what we all get up every day to do, right?
Mhm.
It's the easiest part.
And it's the cheap part.
It's
like
the cheap.
like for our industry, it is the cheap part, because sales has no income, right? No one's paying that cash flow, and you're having to make bets to go do this. And Justin, I'd love your input on this. For everyone listening that's a customer, please take this into account. I only get 8 or 10 new clients a year, right? Of actual new logos, and most of those don't turn into big projects. Those are early stage stuff, and only a few of them turn into long term clients. So. My data points every year is what I'm doing in business development and sales and networking working or not. Right. You and I are very patient guys. We have to wait 6 or 9 or 10 months to go get enough data to see if an experiment we ran last year worked this year.
No, we're in the same exact boat. I mean, the lead time for a net new customer is 6 to 12 months. That relationship takes a long time to grow that. I think this is partly because there's a trust factor required to bring us on at all. You're giving us something that's really valuable to you. We respect the value of the thing that you're handing us. That time to get trust built between a group of people that you've never worked with or don't know, and a team of people who have this thing that they see to be valuable, certainly takes a long time. I mean, I've got conversations that I've been having for 2 years. I literally wrote a proposal for a it's a small project. It's a little door opener project, but it's a small project for a company that I got introduced to that CEO in 2024. And we've gone back and forth, and I've gone up there and he's come down here, and we just now literally wrote an SOW. We delivered it through DocuSign on Monday.
I love that for you. 2
years, and we're a really good fit for one another, but the timing had to be right. The project had to be right. They haven't even signed it yet, so maybe this won't even happen.
Yeah.
But that time is long, and it requires us to really build that trust. And, I say this to customers all the time. The first project is not the project we will ever make money on.
Right.
We do a bad job on the first project, you're going to fire us, and then we're out. If we do a good job on the first project, then you're going to bring us in for the next one and the next one after that. And that's when we actually see benefit. We don't see any benefit on the first project. Almost never.
I will say that, whenever I joined Glassboard, coming out of the world of software and also just like selling doing go-to-market for a physical product, which was like a plug-and-play steam room company. We did some crazy stuff to sell those things, which was fun. And you join a services company and you really start to understand the core fundamentals of how to actually do go-to-market for a services company is just different. It's different metrics. I think that the two metrics that are the biggest difference is, one, the lead time, like you mentioned, but secondarily, the LTV, right? It's actually, if you do a really good job, it's really, really high. It's consistent for the company for a very long time. And so what you give up in terms of your ability to go get, insert X action here gets to Y outcome, and then boom, that's a client. That's what we all want, that math that makes sense logically. Unfortunately, in services, it's a bit different, but the reason being is that LTV could very well be a client that's with you for 8 years.
8 years.
On insert some level of spend, right? And so what you give up in terms of volume, you're actually getting in terms of LTV. But there's so many nuances in between there. And so that's one of the joy of my last year and some change has been understanding and dissecting what it means to go to market for a services company. And it sounds like you guys have, done your fair share of work as well as like, when it comes to a services company delivering the product and the outcome, obviously we need to be a lead at everything. But so much work actually just goes in to make sure you can get that next client that's not there for 6 months, there for 6 years, right? There's an advantage there.
And one thing that I've certainly been burned by because of my personality and because of that I think that I've gotten better at is also knowing where the boundaries are to be able to go to a customer and say, we just shouldn't do that project. Like that's not, I know you think we should because we've been a trusted partner. We've been able to do a lot for you, but you've just walked into an area where if you give this to us, we're probably not going to do as good a job as we've done in those other things that we've done for you. And therefore maybe give this to somebody else. And, we're in the process of doing that right now with a customer we've been working with for a long time, where we're kind of like this little block of this project. So we actually took the time to go out and find them someone else.
The other expert.
Yeah. We're like, how about these guys do this part of the project? Because we're just not going to succeed if we take that on, because it sits in a spot where we're going to have to go bring on resources that we don't have today. We're going to have to manage those resources very carefully. It's going to cost you more money and we probably won't deliver. So that took, that's only happened a couple of times. I've been doing this a long time. But in the first 5, 6, 8 years, I would have always said, hell yeah, we'll just do it. Like we had no business doing. I
can't echo that harder. Like when Drew and I were early, like you didn't know how sales worked. So anything that walked in the door, you had to kill to eat because you needed to eat. And I think it takes two things. It takes some maturity to cram your ego down into a trash can and be like, I'm not the expert at everything.
No.
And two, it takes the financial security of being able to say no, like growing a firm big enough and having enough like long-term look at your business that you're not worried about staying alive next month or next quarter. You're like, oh no, what is best for me at 12 months from now? Will this client be good for me 12 months from now?
Yeah.
And when you can have that kind of a long-term look at your business, you can say no with a healthy smile and say yes with honest eagerness, not just, I'm really glad you're signing on next week.
Yeah, I think that's, that comes with time, and anybody who's getting off the ground early, you don't always have that luxury. The sooner you can get comfortable with that, the easier this business becomes, because we can't do everything. Even if it's in our theoretical boundary.
Even if we could do it, there's probably someone better than us.
Yeah, or it just doesn't make financial sense for us or our customer, or the way our resources are currently, leveraged or whatever it is. But that idea is a hard one to get your head around. I couldn't even. It was probably 8 years before I ever said no to anybody. We did some wackadoodle projects early on, like really weird. We got paid by a guy with a roll of hundreds in his pocket.
I had one experience with a cash buyer. It was hilarious.
I'm like, where did this come from? What is literally with a rubber band around it? He's like, here you go.
Mine was with a money clip, and he's handed me the whole money clip, and I was like,
this is weird.
I'm like, where did this come from? He's like, don't ask questions.
The guy still works. The guy who I did this with, or two, he had done most of the work on the project. The client was pretty strange. He hands us the stack of hundreds. I've never done this before. I've never done it since. I walked up to him and I took out $300 bills and I just tucked them in his pocket. I was like I was in the mob. It was great.
I love that. And my favorite part of this whole story of like telling no and not doing the things you shouldn't be doing, like circles back to like when do you let a client graduate? And that's like on our list to cover today. And I think it's so important because it's so hard early on. You want to do everything for them and be all things to all people. But I've learned with like my startup clients, there are certain aspects of their products I have to make them do in-house so that someone will buy their company.
Yeah.
Right. I can't actually be everything because otherwise they're going to do diligence and I'm going to show up at the table and do diligence. Like, oh, are we getting him? I'm like, actually, you're not.
Right.
And you have to draw these lines. Like product ownership needs to grow and stay with the company in the long run. Sustaining work needs to grow and stay with the startup in the long run.
Yeah, the core business needs to be inside the startup. Like that, you have to graduate that core business back into the startup. Even if you're the team that built it, you have to support that transition back into that startup, or else they have no value. The value sits
they're a sales shell, and that's it.
All in the wrong place. And we've been through that a couple of times. It can be handled well and it can be handled less well. And I think when it's a conversation between executive management and a firm like ours, which is like, okay, we're on the clock here. Mm-hmm. We're going to take this round. And with this round, I'm going to bring on staff to replace you. We need to figure out a wind down plan so that this work can then roll back into my team. Otherwise, I don't own anything.
Right.
That conversation I've had it both directions where I'm a part of it and I know it's coming. And then I've had it dropped on me, which is like, oh, we brought on all these people.
And you're like, cool, I would have loved to have interviewed them for you.
Yeah, I would have helped you. I know you brought on some people you shouldn't have. I know some of the people that you're currently asking us to support aren't going to do a good job. Mm-hmm. But
I'll say we started recruiting. I don't know if you've gotten this far. We started recruiting for our startups. Like I will be the one reviewing posting the job, getting the resumes in, like doing the review and handing them off. Yeah. And it's been some of our favorite startup transitions of Charlie will let me talk about this. So Charlie at Eno Armor is one of our favorite clients. Actually, in our first sales meeting, I told him, I will take money from you for 3 months to tell you what you're doing is a bad idea, but I'll do it so no one else fleaces you for 3 years. Right. And 2 months in, I realized that his business model checked out and this was all going to work. And fast forward 5 years later, I'm no longer doing the managing, sustaining work on his product because I hired Tara in Hong Kong, who I'd worked with at another one of my clients, and she'd left there and was, in between jobs. And I was like, I think you two should meet. I think she could do a great job here. Yeah. And they're just doing awesome work. And you've jumped in and helped them and go to market and sales. Yeah. And it's one of these things like never be afraid to tag in the right people to grow the client's internal skills away from what you do.
100%.
Because they will just grow and be better and come back around and boomerang when they're ready.
Yeah, and the reality is what I said to my team here, we've had this conversation a couple times, is like, if a startup grows fast enough, those people, the relationships we build with the people, they are going to leave this startup and they're going to go to somewhere else. And the value for all of us is to maintain those relationships so that when that happens, we're the first group that they call when they need help. And so we have a startup right now that's raised a ton of money. One of their team members left and he's like in our ear, like, okay, can you come over? And we're like, okay, you guys are kind of competitors. You need to wait a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
But that, I love it when client team members change jobs. Mm-hmm. Like it's one of our easiest business development opportunities is a client team member changes jobs. They end up at a new place. You give them 6 months and then they call us saying, hey, I've got the same problem here that I had over there. Can you come help us? And as long as there's no conflict, it works. And that idea of maintaining those relationships becomes super critical because at the end of the day, our business, your business, my business, all of the service provider businesses are very personal. Mm-hmm. The relationships are very personal. And we have Slack channels where people are communicating nights, weekends, weird times with customers, our team, their team, and they become personal connections. And
you trauma bond through the low points of the Valley of Death. You trauma bond with your team, both the internal team and the client's team and the manufacturing team.
That's right. And if you aren't, comfortable, if those relationships break down, that's the more likely place where groups like us get exited, is because the relationship breaks down at a personal level, not because we did a bad job on one thing or another. Because the reality is, like, none of our businesses control the entire outcome of anything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
We are a piece of an otherwise really complicated system that has to come together to make a business work. Therefore, our work is reliant on all of these other people to do their job well as well. And we've had stuff that we have this poster child of a project. We don't do a lot of consumer branded goods anymore, but we had a client ask us to design, engineer, help source, and supply a stroller made entirely from recycled plastic, using gas assist injection molding, molded in China, manufactured in Indiana at a factory that had never made a stroller and had never done gas assist injection molding at this scale. We're like, what could go wrong? For Walmart.
Oh, we're going on hard mode all the way at every step of the game.
Let's just see how many things we can do that are crazy hard. And so we did this, and I look at this project internally, and I think this is one of our most successful executions on a brief. They fired us before it was even over. And we knew it was coming because everybody could look at this and say,
something's going to go wrong.
This is a bad structure. This is a bad strategy. This is a bad outcome that's going to come of it. And it didn't take him long. And then the president of that company ended up getting fired, and the head of marketing ended up getting fired, and the head of engineering ended up getting fired.
And you were next, yeah.
And we were before. We got fired first. And
right,
then,
because again, you fell on the sword because the blame was on you. That's the waggle dance.
The board came in and got rid of everybody else, and we're like, I mean, good. Like, that's what should have happened. And everybody involved looked at it and just said, "This is a disaster waiting to happen. They're paying us a lot of money. There's this point at which you can't argue. You can't make that argument anymore."
It's going back to the personal relationship side. The moment the personal relationship breaks down, that you can't be heard.
Yeah,
you should just get out of the client because it's kind of like whether the product is a success or not, it's going to fail somewhere along the lines because the personal relationship of being heard and hearing each other isn't there.
Yeah, and then those personal relationships ended up getting us hired back in after all the dust had settled. The middle management team that was involved just called us again. So
we know you fell on the sword the first time. You want to do it again?
Yeah, well, this time it wasn't quite so bad, but that's a reality of, like, we are the scapegoat if it goes wrong. That's partly why we get hired.
And it's partly why we exist.
Right.
Exactly.
Quite literally, to be the bee that goes out and finds and works on the thing that might be a bit more risky, depending on the level. From the startup perspective, you guys are fueling the fire, bringing expertise they don't currently have to get them to a spot they couldn't get to. At the SMB level, you're doing part of that, but more kind of getting them out the gate even faster. And at the enterprise level, you're able to go take some risks on their behalf. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, as long as you have that personal relationship, it's important.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, Justin, I've loved this. So we usually at the end of the podcast ask, what would be your advice to hardware founders? I think that I've heard nothing but advice for hardware founders, especially as they're going to look into an agency and who to trust and how to go about doing it and what to kind of expect from their side and see through their lens. What would be your advice to someone who's going out to start an agency? You've done this a few times. You've lessons learned. What would you tell somebody? What are the main things they should be focused on?
So if I were to start an agency, actually, there's an interesting. I mean, we both listen to Two Bob's podcast. Yep. It was an interesting post from David C. Baker on if I were to start from scratch, which I took like pieces of those, and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I think that the biggest thing that I would do if I was starting an agency from scratch is I would be a little more specific about the thesis of the agency that I'm building at the beginning, instead of allowing that to evolve because of who hires me.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone through all these maturations over time, not because I wanted us to do that, but because that's where we got hired, and therefore we just allowed that to be who we were.
The client said, can you do this one more thing you got good at?
Yeah, we got good at those things, so they just kept hiring us. Like the stroller example is a good one. That business is not a business that excited my team. We were in it because we got hired to do it, and they just kept hiring us. And we were pretty good at it. But the idea of like putting a thesis in place, taking the time to write that down, figure out what's going to keep you, your team, yourself excited. And then the second thing that I say to so I teach at Rhode Island School of Design. A lot of those students come out and want to start an agency. And I tell them the best way for you to keep your agency alive is network more than you ever thought you needed to. The only reason your agency will survive is because of who you know and what that knowledge base and that network can get for you, more so than anything you put on the internet or LinkedIn. It's just these conversations that you have with actual human beings about what you're trying to build, what needs might be out there, and build that network as fast as possible. And then be comfortable putting yourself in places where you haven't been before, and like talk to these people about what they're trying to accomplish, and actually probably listen to them instead of telling them what to do. So those would be the two primary starting points that I would give to somebody.
I love it. Any closing thoughts on that, Grant?
No, I love it. I think the first point of like get specific in your thesis is really important the second time around, but I actually think it's impossible at first.
Maybe
I think
so.
I think you have to go drive by Braille and figure out what you do and you don't love to actually like make a thesis. Because if you actually start with a thesis that's just a guess, you'll stick with it and never learn. I think you kind of have to go get burned a bunch.
I think the reason why I say that is because I started my first agency, I was 35.
Mm-hmm.
I already been through one.
You kind of knew what you wanted.
Yeah.
So I came in at employee number 10. I left, call it 120, 125. I already been through that run. So I knew what I didn't want. I knew I didn't want an agency of 125 people. I knew I didn't want a super complicated multi-headed P&L, which is what we were running. I knew a lot of things I didn't want to do. I know I didn't want ISO 1345.
Yeah.
And so that would have allowed me to make a better thesis at the beginning. If you're starting and you're right out of school, no, you have no idea.
That's what drive by Braille at the beginning. And then you're right. In your mid-30s, you'll know exactly what you should and shouldn't be doing to write a thesis.
Yeah.
And the networking one, I can't scream that from the rooftops any louder than you did, because it's the most important thing. Like, you and I have a name for it, BRASS, build relationships at scale. Mm-hmm. It is the only thing that matters when you're running a relationship-based business.
100%. This is
Absolutely.
all it is a relationship-based business. We used to have a title in my old firm called relationship manager.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's real. Like, all you're doing, it's not an account manager.
It's feel-good manager. It's vibe manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be the guy who they give a call to. That's really ultimately what the name of the game is.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Hericus. Grant, thanks for joining me as always. And Justin, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was fun.